Welcome in for another Soccer Down here 1v1 on the SDH network. I'm Jason Longshore, and as part of our big partnership with ASMG and covering UPSL in Georgia, we've got to talk about UPSL at the national level. If you don't know, this league is massive, and we're going to hear all about it from the new executive vice president of the UPSL, Nick Webster, who joins me now. Nick, how are you?
I'm brilliant, Jason. Thank you so much for having me and UPSL on the show. I think we've got lots to talk about.
Yeah, tons to talk about. I mean, let's start with just how you got involved with UPSL here recently.
Well, it's kind of a long story. I've actually been a player. I mean, I know I might look a bit older now, but I've been a player in UPSL. I've been a coach in UPSL, and was good friends with Lewin Fraser, who was the former COO of the league. We run into each other at a lot of AGMs, and at the last soccer AGM in Atlanta, Lewin and I were sitting together, and I nominated him to a position on the adult council, which he was like, "What are you doing? I'll never get in." And funny enough, he got voted in this time, and then he said that there was a position coming up within the league, and would I be interested? And like I said, being a player and a coach, I've always had big dreams about what the sport can be in this country, and the stars aligned, and I applied for the position, and a couple of interviews later, here I am.
It's funny. We have a lot in common, and not just the Atlanta Silverbacks portions of our history, but a lot of our work has kind of dovetailed where you and I have both done the broadcast side of things, but we've both been on the league and on the team and on the supportive side. You've done the coaching side as well. UPSL is such a fertile, I think, grassroots portion for the game's growth in the United States. For somebody who doesn't know it, why would you explain that UPSL is so vital for soccer in this country right now?
Well, it's a really interesting question because UPSL sits in this. I don't want to call it a gray area. Let's call it a golden area.
Yeah.
Because it is the next pathway for players that have a dream or for players that want to play at a decent level. If we think about soccer in this country, the youth game is all powerful, in good ways and in bad ways, for sure. I think there's some good actors and bad actors within the youth game, but it's not really at this particular moment in time developing the kind of players that we need to get success at the international level. UPSL provides this pathway to the pro leagues for many players that they get missed out on, and they get missed out on because they don't play for the right clubs. They're not playing in the right leagues. They can't afford to play the game at the youth level, which we all know is very, very expensive. UPSL is like the cheapest, the most inexpensive way you can play high level soccer in this country. And with the opportunity to go from different levels with the A League, Division One, and then the Premier level. And I think we're seeing, especially in the last 6 to 12 months, that pro clubs, USL clubs, MLS teams, and even international teams are looking at our league and going, "Hey, wait a minute, there's talent here, and there's talent that we're missing out on." And so that's why I believe that the UPSL has such an opportunity to not only develop the professional game, but also allow players, both female and male, to enjoy this game at a high level, because it doesn't happen often, but every once in a while there's a gem in amateur football, and this goes throughout the world, that gets discovered. And perhaps the most famous name is Jamie Vardy,
Yeah.
who was playing non-league football for Fleetwood Town, and the next thing you know, he's the top goal scorer in the Premier League, and he's won a Premier League title. So there's this great opportunity for players that may have gone to college and not got that opportunity to go to the next level, to refine their game, still play at a really good level, and then go again.
It's been fascinating seeing everything grow here in Georgia, where you have some very strong, established, long-running clubs in UPSL in the top division, like Georgia Revolution is one that's been around for a long time. You have some teams in smaller areas of the state that kind of have that area to themselves, and kids and players there might not get noticed. And then you have an Atlanta United and now a Chattanooga Red Wolves who have teams in the league. It feels like the UPSL really can be that development tool for US soccer as a whole, across players, across coaches, across administrators, and across community.
Yeah, I mean, look, I would love to see, and there were MLS clubs within the UPSL ecosystem, and the same with USL. I think what we can offer is we can offer local soccer. And when I mean by local, yeah, I mean sometimes you're looking at an hour and a half travel time, but it's
Yep.
still local compared to, you're talking about Atlanta United and having to travel to New York or
Yeah.
having to go to Dallas. I mean, these are massive distances for young players, and it costs clubs a lot of money. I mean, because you're involved, you know what the budgets we're talking
Yeah.
about now. A UPSL budget could be as small as like 5 grand for a season, which is your membership, league dues, and
Mhm.
then a little bit of travel. For the pro teams, I mean, you're looking at 50, 60, $70,000 a season just to move youth players around. So this is the opportunity that I would love for professional clubs to go, you know what, we can put our younger teams in the UPSL, because at the end of the day, you get better as a player by playing up.
Yep.
You don't get better by playing within your own age group. You get better by playing against, tough, maybe former professionals, maybe
Mhm.
semi-professionals. But that is the education that happens throughout the world, except unfortunately here in America. And if we can change that, it's only going to help. It's going to help the whole ecosystem, and we're going to find. I promise you, people are going to go, "Oh my God, Webster's out of his mind." You're going to find that gem, that one player who is going to take the world by storm. And I'm not saying you're going to find the next Lionel Messi or Cristiano Ronaldo, but you are going to find a player of exceptional quality, and he's going to come from UPSL.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen it here locally. Players have had the opportunities to sign with Atlanta United too, based on how they performed in UPSL against Atlanta United Academy teams. Openings happen. You need a midfielder. Hey, there's this guy that our U18s played against, and he was really good, and he gets an opportunity at a professional career. I think it's also the thing that I always come back to with UPSL is it can be in so many different places. I think when we look at this country, we think all the players are going to come from certain parts of California or certain parts of Florida or Pennsylvania, where they've always come from. And we don't think about Alabama, and we don't think about Mississippi or Iowa. I called the national finals a couple of years ago, and Dodge City Toros had a number of players that I was texting every college coach that I knew, like, hey, you need to come look at this guy. There's talent all over the country, and I feel like UPSL is nimble enough to be in all of these different places.
Well, I mean, look, that's a great point. I was the coach of the Cal South ODP team. We were the U17s back in 2015, and we had an exceptional team. And quite a few of the players actually went on to have semi pro, pro careers.
Mhm.
We played Iowa in the final, and you think to yourself, Iowa, what are they even doing in the final of the National Olympic Development Program?
Yeah.
And they had this kid up front. I think his parents were from Iran. He was one of the best players I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
And he got discovered through the ODP program. I'm sure he probably played UPSL, because that's what, to your point, without the stage, that kid would never, ever, ever have been seen.
Yeah.
And that's what we can't afford to miss out on players of that exceptional quality. And within the structure of the league, that's how they're going to develop. So uh, I would say to anybody listening that if you have that dream that you can become a semi-pro or a professional player, and you haven't been given the opportunity through the pro clubs, this is your pathway.
Yeah, we see it in Open Cup. We see
Excuse
it
me.
in all these different platforms. It's so exciting to see. The league's almost 1,000 clubs now, and you have a growing academy side and you have a growing women's side. What are the next kind of steps for the league as a whole, as we all in the U.S. soccer ecosystem are looking at what comes after this summer with the World Cup in town?
Well, my dream, and it's kind of a bizarre, really out there dream, is that every town in this country has a UPSL team.
Hmm.
Um, just like in the rest of the world, every town has a soccer team, has a football team.
Yep.
Um, I also see. I would love every youth club in this country to have a senior team, and I think that's what happens in the rest of the world.
Yeah.
You have a club, you have your U15s to 19s, and then you have a senior team. And I think that that's an opportunity uh, that is out there, and I would love for youth clubs to be able to look at a bigger picture for when their kids age out, their players
Yeah.
age out, and they go to college, or they get a job, but they don't have a team to play for, and that community connection. For many kids, they play on the same club team their entire lives. They join as
Yeah.
a U7, a U8, and they'll play 10 years, and then, well, it's over. I can't represent my club anymore that meant so
Right.
much to me and that I've spent so much time at. So that's something that I'm really actively looking at in terms of, and it's not all, Jason, it's not all about growth. Uh, you know, UPSL has done so well because it's grown organically. Um, but I do see the game and certainly post World Cup growing. And so a byproduct of the game growing is that UPSL will grow because I think there's a certain amount of saturation within the youth market in the affiliated, but it's
Right.
the unaffiliated market which is probably dwarfs the affiliated market,
I
really.
agree.
Um, that's those are the players that I'm interested in working with and talking with and giving them the opportunity to play with us.
Well, firsthand, I mean, from your experience with Eric Winalda and Cal FC, and, we saw that firsthand. A lot of those players who came through what you guys did got professional opportunities, and they were probably coming from unaffiliated leagues for the most part. Coming in through that team, they get an opportunity in the Open Cup, and then some went on and had pretty good professional careers based off of that investment of y'all's time into it. How much does your experience with that and with other soccer experiences in your life kind of inform you as to what's next and what should be next for UPSL?
Yeah, I mean, look, that was an amazing experience with Eric, and to go on a run like that as an amateur team, and to actually beat the Portland Timbers in their home stadium was a memory that will stay with me forever. And I would say that at least seven of the squad we found playing Sunday league football.
Yep.
In Southern California, it's very competitive at the unaffiliated level. The players get paid. They get paid. Sometimes they get paid a lot of money. They're playing three,
Yes.
4 games a day. There's all kinds of fun stuff going on within those unaffiliated games that we don't really need to go into on this particular show.
Very true.
But um, but these that's where you find, honestly, I hate to say it, but that's where you find the nuggets. That's
Mhm.
where you find the rough diamonds playing in that kind of soccer, because it's tough. It's every man for themselves, and every woman for themselves, and within that environment, you just as a coach or as a scout, as a team admin, you got to roll up the sleeves and perhaps go to areas and fields that you wouldn't usually go to, um, and you really need to have an open mind. And I think that when we look at the makeup of our national team right now, I go, where are all the Hispanic players?
Mhm.
Um, in this country right now, over 50% of our players are Hispanic.
Yeah.
um, and this is a uh, this is a group that is massively underserved, and I think the UPSL can step in here and be that helping hand and be a guardian of the game for a segment of the population that maybe is not getting a fair shake.
It's a great entry point for a lot of clubs. And I've seen that firsthand in Georgia, how clubs have either had youth and then went into UPSL and grew, or had a UPSL team that might have been playing Sunday League and then was able to grow a second team or grow a women's team out of it. The women's and the academy side is something that's really fascinating to me that I'm seeing UPSL start to do more of. What does that look like for you with a national women's league and the academy side of where UPSL can fit in?
Well, I think when we look at the women's semi-pro, and look, let's be honest, that the professional game, we're only seeing the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah.
I think this is a massive opportunity for all of the soccer ecosystem to boost the women's game. The girls ECNL, the girls on the youth side, it's massive. I mean, there's more girls playing than boys
Mm-hmm.
within affiliated soccer. And once again, as I briefly mentioned earlier, once they finish their club program and whether they go to college or not, where do you go?
Yeah.
Where do you play? And this is something that we are really looking at in great detail. And I think you'll see over the next 12 months that the WUPSL is going to get a lot of love. And we're really actively pursuing ways where we can attract young ladies to play this game and get teams throughout the country. Right now, I think we're about 150 teams. I honestly, you may think I'm crazy, but I honestly think that we could get it up to 300
Oh yeah.
clubs within the next year. And we've got a women's World Cup that is right around the corner. It's just 13 months away, which is going to give the game another boost. And then we've got the Women's World Cup coming to American shores in 2031.
Mm-hmm.
All things aligning. So um, this is a massive chance for us as a whole. And I'm not talking about UPSL. I'm
Yeah.
talking about soccer in general, to give the women's game, which is by far the fastest growing segment of the soccer ecosystem. And then from the youth side, it's a really interesting question that we're trying to figure out what the answer looks like, because the youth is very it's a really fragmented market. I think that's
Yes.
the first thing we have to acknowledge.
Yes.
It's the acronym soup, and everybody claiming to be the best league. Um, and I think, you mentioned the two different pathways. One, there's a UPSL team, and they develop their own youth. I'm more of the mindset, and we just spoke about that youth teams uh, develop a UPSL senior team.
Yep.
Not only do they have the resources, they have the players, but 9 times out of 10 they have facilities as well. And I think one of the hardest things for a new UPSL team when they come into the league is developing that facility model. We have standards that we really want to be met. And that means having a good field, hopefully without football lines. It means having at least a set of bleachers. We'd love it if there's changing rooms. And these are very hard to source. And look, a lot of venues and facilities, they go straight to youth,
Yep.
and rightly so. However, don't forget the adults, because there's actually more adults playing soccer than there are kids playing soccer.
I think it's hard for some people to understand that. And that's been an area that, we've talked about the growth of youth soccer over the years, but I think the growth of adults being able to continue to play is something that hasn't really been acknowledged in this country a whole lot. And that's from a purely recreational fun level to this kind of level. It's just really exciting, all of the growth at every single different level of where the game is in this country right now.
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm going to age myself. When I first came to America, I played Open. And then before you knew it, I was in the over 30s and then the over 40s and the over 50s. And, recently made my debut in the over 60s. But yeah, listen, it's the greatest game in the world.
Hmm.
It really is, and you can play it at any age. And the great thing about soccer is that all abilities, all shapes, all sizes. I remember Maradona when he was going through, one of his eating spells, but he was still the most incredible player, the best player on the pitch.
Yeah,
So, anybody can play this game, and I think that the UPSL, we're open. Anybody can play. If you're under 18, you can play. We don't close the door to anybody, and it doesn't matter what age you are. You could be 40 and still good enough to play. Then there's a place for you. So I think that is why this league has so much staying power and the ability to attract players of varying degrees. I mean, not everyone's going to be in the Premier League, but if you still want to play, at a good level, there's Division One and there's the A League. So, um, you mentioned it earlier. I think that as we grow, I think there is room for another division, perhaps an elite division, um, that would sit above the Premier. Um, and I think that, with this post World Cup boost that we're surely going to have, I think that could be a strong possibility in 2027.
definitely something that I could see as well. It's exciting to see UPSL soon over 1,000 clubs and all of the cool things happening for the league. And here in Georgia, you've got a lot of really good teams, a lot of top players. You had teams in the Open Cup this year, a ton of growth across the state and across the region. Nick, thank you so much for the time and all the enlightenment on everything going on UPSL. And we'll be talking again soon.
Oh, it's my pleasure. And for more on UPSL, go to upsl.com. This is my promo right here. And you can find us on Instagram and Facebook. And the great thing about those two channels, you might also find a live stream somewhere. And if you want to watch some good quality soccer for free on your phone or on your computer, well, that's the way to go.